She looked at me the way people look at something they're not supposed to want. Just long enough to notice, not long enough to be caught. That's how it started. A moment too long. A silence that didn't move. It was supposed to be nothing. A small gathering at a friend's place. Soft jazz spilling through speakers. Half-drunk glasses of wine scattered on a wooden table. But she sat across from me, legs crossed, wrists resting on the stem of her glass, and the room felt suddenly smaller. Her name was Elise. Everyone else said it casually. "Elise, pass the olives." Or, "Elise, you remember last summer, right?" But when I said it, it sounded different. Like something I shouldn't say too often. She was in her 40s, maybe mid. The kind of woman who didn't need to prove she was beautiful. She just existed, and everything rearranged itself around that fact. Her hair was tied loosely, a few strands falling against her neck, the kind of imperfection that looks deliberate. I caught myself looking more than I should have. She noticed. Not right away, but in the small way her fingers adjusted the bracelet on her wrist when I spoke, or how she laughed softly without meeting my eyes. I wasn't trying to be charming. I was just paying attention. At one point, our hands brushed while reaching for the same bottle of water. Just a brief touch, skin against skin, but it lingered longer in my mind than it should have. Her fingers didn't pull away immediately. Neither did mine. And in that fraction of a second, I swear we both forgot where we were. "Sorry," I said. She smiled, faint, knowing, almost teasing. "You don't sound sorry." Her voice had that low, warm texture, like it carried history in every syllable. She didn't talk the way younger women did, rushing through words. She let silence sit between sentences, like she was waiting to see what I'd do with it. Someone at the table cracked a joke. Laughter erupted. But she and I didn't laugh. We just looked at each other, pretending not to. Later, when most people had drifted toward the kitchen, she stayed near the balcony. I found myself walking there too, though I didn't plan to. The air was cooler outside, a little wind, faint city noise, her perfume still hovering in the space between us. "You're quiet," she said, turning slightly toward me. "You talk enough for both of us," I said. She smiled again, that half smile that looked like she was thinking something she wouldn't say out loud. For a while, neither of us spoke. She looked over the railing, fingers tapping lightly against the metal. I watched her reflection in the glass door, the curve of her shoulder, the line of her jaw illuminated by the streetlights below. "You remind me of someone," she said suddenly. "Should I be flattered?" "That depends," she said, turning back to me. "He left before I could tell him something important." The music inside changed, slower, more deliberate. Something about the rhythm made it hard to step away. She was close enough now that I could see the faintest shimmer of light on her collarbone, the rise and fall of her breathing. "I should," I started, but didn't finish. She tilted her head, waiting. "You should what?" I couldn't answer. My throat was dry. And then, a voice from inside. "Elise, are you coming?" Her eyes flicked toward the sound, then back at me. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she exhaled, slowly, and said, "I'll see you around." She brushed past me to go inside, her hand grazing my arm just enough to make me forget what I was about to say. The door closed behind her. The night didn't. She didn't come to the next gathering. Or the one after that. And I told myself it didn't matter. I barely knew her. But the truth was, every time someone laughed too loudly, or a glass clinked across the table, I caught myself looking toward the door. When she finally did show up again, it was different. She wore something simpler this time, a cream sweater, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair pinned up like she hadn't planned to stay long. But the moment she walked in, everything else blurred out again. "Didn't think you'd come," I said. She shrugged lightly. "Didn't think I'd be missed." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but the words stuck somewhere between my chest and my throat. That evening was quieter. Fewer people, softer lights, a rain tapping against the window. I was helping clean up in the kitchen when she appeared beside me, sleeves pushed up, her perfume mixing with the scent of dish soap and rain. "You don't strike me as the helpful type," she said, handing me another glass to dry. "I'm full of surprises." "I doubt that." Her tone was teasing, but her eyes didn't match. There was something else there, a faint tiredness, the kind that hides behind charm. "Long week?" I asked. "Long decade," she said with a dry laugh. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Then silence, only the clinking of glass, the hum of the refrigerator. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she changed the subject, asked about my classes, my plans, whether I still wrote songs. She remembered things I'd mentioned once, casually. That made it worse somehow, the way she listened. When I turned to put a glass away, she was closer than before, standing just behind me. Her hand brushed my shoulder, maybe accidentally, maybe not. "Sorry," she murmured. But she didn't step back. I could feel her breath near my neck, warm, uneven. The kind of closeness that didn't belong in a kitchen surrounded by half-empty plates and wine stains. She caught herself first, pulled away with a small, guilty smile. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said. "I wasn't," I lied. She gave me a look, soft, knowing. "You were." Later, when most people left, we found ourselves alone again, the rain louder now, her reflection trembling in the glass door that led to the balcony. "You have someone?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, eyes on the window. "Had. Once. And now? Now I work. I sleep. I make sure people think I'm fine." Her words hung there, raw, unfiltered. I wanted to say something that would make her smile again, but nothing felt right. She turned toward me, close enough that I could see the small line near her mouth that only showed when she tried not to cry. "You shouldn't get too close to people like me," she said. "Maybe I already did." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she reached out, almost absent-mindedly, and fixed the collar of my shirt, her fingers brushing my skin just long enough to make everything else disappear. Neither of us spoke. The silence said enough. I told myself I wouldn't stay late. But when I saw her coat still hanging by the door, I knew I wouldn't leave either. Elise was in the living room, helping our mutual friend pack away candles after another small get-together. The others had already gone, laughter fading down the hallway, car doors slamming, the smell of rain still in the air. "You always volunteer for cleanup," I said quietly. She looked up from the table, that faint smirk again. "Maybe I just like the quiet after people leave. Or maybe you knew I'd stay." Her eyes lingered on me for half a second too long, and then she looked away, pretending to wipe at a non-existent stain on the counter. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I'll start believing them." It was supposed to end there. I should have said goodnight, but I didn't. She was standing by the record player now, flipping through vinyl sleeves with slow, distracted fingers. Her hair was down this time, a little messy, catching the light. I took a few steps closer, not enough to touch her, just close enough to feel her nearness. The sound of her breathing, the rustle of paper covers. She didn't turn, but her voice softened. "You're too young to know what you want." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just want the wrong thing." That made her pause. She turned slightly, not facing me fully, but enough that I could see the line of her throat, the curve of her jaw. "What happens when people find out?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "What people?" She gave a faint, disbelieving laugh. "You know exactly what I mean." Her tone was light, but there was tension underneath it, the kind that stretched between words and silence. I could feel it pulling at both of us. A phone buzzed on the counter. She jumped slightly, reaching for it too fast, almost knocking over a glass. "Sorry," she said, voice shaking just enough to betray something. The screen lit up with a message, a name I didn't recognize. She hesitated before locking it, turning the phone face down. "Everything okay?" "Yes. Just work." But she didn't sound convinced. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rain outside had stopped, replaced by the soft hum of traffic. The room felt too warm, too quiet. I reached for the record sleeve in her hands. Our fingers met again. Not accidental this time. She didn't pull away. Her breath caught. Mine too. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly we were closer. Her perfume, her warmth, the faint tremor in her lips as she whispered, "We shouldn't." And still, neither of us moved. The space between us thinned until it almost disappeared, the kind of almost that hurt more than distance ever could. Then, the front door opened. Our friend's voice broke the silence. "Hey, Elise, did you see my—" She stepped back fast, pretending to look for something on the table, her face flushed but steady. I pretended too. When the door shut again, and we were alone once more, she exhaled, a shaky, breathless laugh. "That was close," she said softly. "Too close," I answered. And yet, neither of us moved away. It was raining again, harder this time, like the sky was trying to drown the city. Elise had offered to drive me home after dinner. Everyone else had scattered into taxis, umbrellas blooming under the streetlights. We sat in her car, engine humming, windows fogging slowly from the warmth inside. Neither of us reached for the radio. The sound of rain filled every silence. She looked ahead, fingers resting lightly on the steering wheel, nails tapping without rhythm. "You don't have to stay," she said quietly. "I know. You'll regret it." "I already do," I said, but I didn't move. Her mouth twitched, the faintest trace of a smile. "You really don't make this easy. Neither do you." She turned to look at me then, really look. The dim orange streetlight outside caught her eyes, made them softer, almost uncertain. "You think this is something it isn't," she said. "And what is it?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "A mistake waiting to happen." "Then why are we still here?" Her jaw tightened. I could see her thinking, weighing logic against impulse. For a long, suspended second, the air between us felt like a live wire. I reached up and brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek. She didn't stop me. Her skin was cool from the rain, but beneath it, I could feel the warmth pulsing. Her breath caught, eyes flicking from my mouth to my eyes, once, then again. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she leaned back slightly, like distance could fix what was already broken. "You don't understand," she said. "People talk. They always talk. I don't care. You will." The words cracked halfway through, like she was trying to convince herself. Lightning flashed outside, followed by a long rumble that shook the air around us. The car felt smaller, like the storm was pressing against the glass. "You think I haven't wanted to?" she said suddenly, her voice low, raw. "You think it's easy pretending I don't notice the way you look at me? You think I don't see how you wait for me to say something I can't?" Her confession hit harder than I expected. I leaned forward, just enough to feel her breath against mine. Her lips parted slightly, her voice barely audible. "This can't happen." "But it's already happening," I whispered. She let out a quiet, broken laugh, the kind that ends in silence instead of sound. Her hand lifted, hesitated in the air, then rested against my chest, not pushing me away, not pulling me closer. Just staying there, trembling. The rain grew louder. Her eyes glimmered, not from tears, but from something dangerously close to surrender. "Say something," she breathed. I did. "Stay." She closed her eyes. A small, sharp exhale, part pain, part want. And then, just as her face tilted forward, just as the world narrowed to the space between us, a knock on the fogged window. Both of us froze. The sound came again, sharp, real. Someone outside, half-shadowed under an umbrella, calling her name. She didn't look at me. Her hand slipped from my chest, fingers trailing warmth across my shirt before falling away completely. And then, softly, so soft I almost missed it, she whispered, "Not like this." The next time I saw Elise, she didn't smile. It was a week later, same apartment, another gathering, but the air felt different. Tighter. Someone had left a window open, and the curtains moved like they were trying to warn us. She avoided my eyes at first, spoke to everyone else, laughed at things that weren't funny. I tried to do the same. Pretend. But pretending around her felt impossible. Every time she reached for her glass, every time she brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, my pulse jumped like it was still that night in her car. Then she said my name, softly, the way she used to when no one was listening. "Can we talk?" I followed her into the hallway, away from the noise. The dim light overhead flickered once, then steadied. "You shouldn't have come tonight," she said. "I was invited. I told her not to." "Her?" "Elena," she said. "She thinks you and I." She stopped herself, voice trembling. "She heard us. That night. The car." I froze. "Heard what?" "She saw." The world seemed to tighten around that one word. Saw. "She told people?" I asked. Elise didn't answer right away. Her silence was enough. "She told him," she whispered finally. "My ex? He called me this morning." The hallway felt suddenly colder. I didn't know what to say. I just watched her, the way her fingers twisted together, her throat tightened, her breathing uneven like she'd been holding it all day. "I thought I could control it," she said, her voice breaking. "You and me, whatever this is. I thought if I kept it quiet, it wouldn't hurt anyone. And does it?" She looked up sharply, eyes bright with something between anger and fear. "You don't understand what it's like to have everything to lose. And you don't understand what it's like to want something you're not supposed to want," I said quietly. The words came out before I could stop them. They hung there, heavier than the silence that followed. She stepped back, but only barely, like she wanted to move and couldn't. "Don't make this harder than it already is." "It already is," I said. For a long second, neither of us breathed. Then she took a shaky step forward, closing the space between us again. Her hand lifted, not quite touching my face, just hovering, trembling. "I told him it was nothing," she said. "That you were just kind. That I imagined the rest. Did you?" Her eyes flicked down, then up again. Something raw in them now, something that looked like truth fighting through guilt. "No," she whispered. "I didn't imagine any of it." The air between us tightened. I could feel the warmth of her body just inches from mine, the faint scent of her perfume mixed with fear and rain. "Then stop pretending," I said. Her lips parted, but instead of answering, she turned, pressed her hand to the wall like she needed something solid to keep from shaking. "I can't," she said. "Not yet." Her voice was barely audible, but it carried a finality that made my chest ache. Still, as she moved past me, her shoulder brushed mine, slow, deliberate, a touch that said the opposite of everything her words tried to hide. I turned to watch her leave, and in that moment I knew this wasn't ending. It was beginning. It was late when I went to see her. Too late for a visit that could be explained easily. The hallway outside her apartment was dark except for a thin line of light under her door. I stood there longer than I should have, rehearsing what I'd say, but the moment she opened it, every word vanished. She looked tired, softer somehow. A loose sweater, bare feet, hair unpinned. Her expression shifted when she saw me. Surprise first, then something deeper, something that almost hurt. "Don't," she said quietly. "Not tonight. I need to talk. You shouldn't be here." "I know." We both stood still. The air between us felt charged, like the silence itself was holding its breath. She finally stepped aside, and I walked in. The room smelled like rain and chamomile. A record spun somewhere in the background. Low, slow jazz, the kind that fills the space between two people who don't know what to say. I turned toward her. "You told him it was nothing." Her eyes flicked up to mine. "I had to." "Was it?" She exhaled, long and quiet, the kind of breath that sounds like surrender. "You already know the answer." I took a step closer. Then another. She didn't move away this time. Her arms were crossed at first, but when I stopped just inches from her, they fell loosely to her sides. "You make everything too real," she whispered. "I could live with a fantasy, but not this. And I can't keep pretending it's just fantasy." Her hands trembled, barely visible, but I saw it. She was shaking not from fear, but from holding everything in for too long. I reached out and brushed her hair back behind her ear. She closed her eyes at the touch, her breath catching against the quiet. "I've thought about this," she said, voice unsteady. "More than I want to admit." "So have I." She opened her eyes, met mine steady now. "You shouldn't love me." Too late. Something inside her broke at that. I saw it, a flicker of something raw, almost desperate. She lifted her hand, resting it against my chest. My heartbeat answered hers, fast, uneven, like both of us were already falling. "This can't end well," she murmured. "I'm not thinking about the end." For a moment, everything else faded, the music, the rain, even the sound of our breathing. Just the weight of everything unsaid pressing between us. Then, slowly she leaned closer, until her forehead rested against mine. Neither of us spoke. The warmth of her skin, the faint tremor in her breath, the way her fingers curled against my shirt, it was all confession without words. "This is the point where we stop," she whispered. I nodded, but didn't move. "Then stop me." She didn't. Instead, she let the silence stretch, her lips hovering just close enough to make it hurt. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were glassy, her voice barely there. "Now you know," she said. "That's what it feels like, wanting someone you can't keep." I wanted to answer, to reach for her again, but she was already turning away, her silhouette framed in the soft amber light. And even though nothing had happened, everything had changed. For the first time, we both understood, the line between us wasn't safety. It was the only thing keeping us from falling. I didn't see Elise for weeks after that night. She didn't answer my messages, and I didn't push. Part of me thought she was gone for good, that she'd drawn her line and I'd finally crossed it. But even as days turned into weeks, I caught myself checking my phone at odd hours, half expecting her name to light up the screen. When it finally did, it was simple. "Can we talk?" I met her at a small café near the edge of town, quiet, unremarkable, the kind of place you pick when you don't want to be seen. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with a mug in her hands, eyes lost somewhere outside. When she saw me, she smiled, not the practiced one she used with others, but a small, tired, genuine one. "You look different," she said. "So do you." We sat there in silence for a while. The sound of clinking cups and soft chatter filled the gaps we couldn't. Then she spoke, voice low but steady. "I thought distance would help," she said. "That if I stayed away long enough, it would fade." And did it? She shook her head, eyes glimmering faintly. No. It just made me miss you in quieter ways. Her honesty disarmed me. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, not breaking her gaze. You don't owe me anything, Elise. I know, she said. But maybe I owe myself something. She hesitated, fingers tracing the rim of her cup. I was scared. Of what people might say. Of what I might lose. But I realized I was already losing something myself. I spent years being careful, polite, predictable. And then you walked in, and suddenly I wanted something that didn't fit inside any of that. Her voice trembled on the last word, but she didn't look away. I reached across the table and took her hand, slowly, so she could pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Her hand fit into mine naturally, like it had been waiting. Warm. Real. She exhaled, a soft, relieved sound. You're still too young, she whispered. Then let me grow into it, I said. She laughed, a quiet, shaky laugh that sounded more like release than humor. You always know how to make things sound simple. Maybe they are, I said. We just make them harder. The rain started outside again, gentle this time, rhythmic against the glass. She turned her hand in mine, fingers intertwining fully, her thumb brushing the back of my hand in slow, absent circles. Maybe we start small, she said. No promises. Just honesty. I can live with that. She smiled, that same faint curve that had undone me the first night we met. Then she leaned forward across the table, her forehead resting lightly against mine. It wasn't a kiss. It was quieter, more certain. A kind of promise you don't say out loud. We stayed like that for a while, breathing the same small space, the same warmth, until the noise of the café disappeared completely. When she finally pulled back, her voice was barely a whisper. Maybe this time, she said, we stop pretending we're not choosing it. And for the first time, I didn't hesitate. I just held her hand tighter, letting the quiet between us say everything that words couldn't. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?